One is a peppy, if standard, 50s musical made in the 60s, the other a replication with a little less emotion put behind it. The Music Man, They Remade It.
Hi, and welcome back to another episode of They Remade It. I'm your host, Stuart.
And I'm your host, Jacob.
We're back with another look at a couple of films, a couple of, Hollywood hacks just deciding, let's just remake something, we'll make money.
Couple of Hollywood hackets. We're in this for the long haul. We're doing two musicals today.
Hooray!
Lots of song and nature.
Yay, it's something a bit more lighthearted.
Yeah, I want to say this is the first musical we've done since Little Shop of Horrors, but if you count the Disney ones, we've done like 10. So
oh god, Disney movies are just kind of their own thing in their own right.
Yeah, that's why I tend to not count them.
Yeah, it's like they don't deserve the classification.
Although that Disney's Alice in Wonderland soundtrack was probably longer than the entirety of today's movies.
Yeah. That's a good point, actually.
Anyways, I have been meaning to ask you a very important question.
Ooh, a question?
Yeah. What have you been doing?
Oh, not much. Just been catching up on reading. I actually saw a movie this time around. Not more than one, but, I at least don't have to have news this time around.
Is it Detective Pikachu again?
No, it was not Detective Pikachu again. I also only saw that once. Okay, twice. Whatever.
Twice?
Yeah, maybe. I can't. I don't know. The plot is weirdly prevalent in my mind, and so that tells me I've seen it more than once, but I cannot for the life of me remember when the second time was.
I was like, that's one more time than I actually thought.
Yeah, I mean, same. But the more I think about it, it's like, I'm all but certain I have. Maybe I was drinking that night. I don't know.
Okay.
Who knows? I may as well hit my Dean Martin face.
Oh. If you want, I can't stop you.
I mean, nah. It's like I've always told myself, if I gotta have a slow descent into drunkenness, I at least gotta make it to 30 first. If I can't make it to then, I don't deserve it.
Yeah, it's like a reward.
Exactly. It's like it's just like you kind of let yourself go after you've been doing a bunch of stuff. It's like let's just do this.
I hear you. So that's what you've been doing this week, is planning your descent.
Well, yeah, I do that every week, but
Oh, okay.
But in the subject of movies, I saw, another one with the girlfriend. Went to the little dine-in theater we tend to go to. We saw one. I guess it would be an indie film. I mean, it's got the hallmarks of it, but it was called Peanut Butter Falcon. If you've heard about that one.
I haven't.
Okay, yeah. It's about this young man. Guy, I don't know how old he is, but it's about this guy with Down syndrome who's escaping from an assisted living facility that he's been forced to live at because of government bureaucracy and shit, and he escapes from it because he wants to go out and become a professional wrestler, and so he runs into another guy played by Shia LaBeouf actually, who himself is running away from his own troubles, and they end up kind of having this like modern Huckleberry Finn kind of journey to kind of get to where they're going across. I'm pretty sure it was Virginia, like super rural Virginia, across these islands that are just off the coast. So it's just kind of that whole little journey. It was fucking hilarious, and I loved every second of it.
Oh wow, sounds pleasant.
Yeah, it was really cool. I mean, it's like it's a very real story. It's like you have like what's the what's the joke from what was that movie Tropic Thunder? It's like never go full retard. The whole joke was like in Forrest Gump, they never really specify what his issues are, that he's just kind of off, and that whole thing. And this one, like they straight up be like, no, this kid has Down syndrome, and people straight up call him a retard a lot, and it's like a super real story, but it's also really really sweet.
That's good.
Yeah, and obviously, pardon my language for the for saying that, but
I think a lot of that phrase sort of stems from Sean Penn in I Am Sam.
Really?
Yeah. Where that's not where the phrase originated, but I think that's what a lot of people use it in reference to, because that's like notoriously not good, awful even.
Oh no. I don't think I've heard of it.
Okay.
Which I've never really liked Sean Penn in general, so you know.
He went to Haiti for you. Well, not for you, but he went to Haiti.
Good for him. I donated some money.
To Sean Penn?
No, not to him, to Haiti. Fuck Sean Penn.
Okay, good. We're on the same page.
Yeah, don't worry. Jesus Christ. He's got enough money to buy God, I'm sure.
I hope not.
I mean, like, I hope God's not on that kind of hard times.
His Bob Honey book, I'm sure, is selling millions. He just announced the sequel, so he'll be getting even more money.
Hooray.
Good for him.
Yeah. Actually reminds me, I've also been watching a little bit of the most recent season of the show Preacher, which it's kind of an apt subject of God being kind of weird.
Oh,
but,
yeah,
you know,
okay, I get you. I thought you were trying to relate it to today's movies. I was like,
oh God, no. That's a very deep gap.
I hear you. I understand now. I follow it. I connected the dots, if you will.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the extent of what I've seen, I think.
All right. So I'll just jump into it. I'm not even going to let you ask. I don't care. I'll do it anyways.
Jeez.
First things first, this isn't something I've been watching, but I listened to it recently. I just want to talk about it briefly. The soundtrack to Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland, I recently listened to.
Yeah.
That really pisses me off, because that soundtrack is amazing. And
oh, yeah.
none of those songs are in the movie. That makes me so angry, irrationally so, that the only song in the movie is the Danny Elfman main theme, and everything else on the soundtrack is just a weird cover of a poem from one of the books done by, like, They Might Be Giants or Franz Ferdinand. And that's an awesome album.
Wow. I didn't even know that. I thought you just meant, like, the score and stuff. It's like, I like the score, at least.
Oh, no. The soundtrack is, like, just covers. Like, They Might Be Giants did a cover of Old Father William, and Franz Ferdinand did The Lobster Quadrille, which is something in the episode we did on it I said I wished was in the Alice in Wonderland movie, because I love that poem.
Well, now I gotta listen to this.
It's awesome, and it's weird, and it's indie, and the only song on the soundtrack I don't like is the only one that's in the actual movie itself. So, that's something for you.
Just goes to show how we feel about remakes.
Well, not all.
Okay, well, at least in this case.
Definitely in this case.
God, that's a weird movie.
But so as to not talk about music, because this is not Music Cast, and instead talk about movies, because the name of the show is Movie Cast.
Yes, Jacob.
Okay, I distracted myself. I don't know where I was going with that, because I haven't watched any movies this time around. Well, kind of, yes and no. I'll get into that. I've been catching up on a lot of shows, like what you were talking about with Reacher. And I won't...
Preacher,
Jack Preacher. Whatever it's referred to as. But, so what I've been watching, I've been catching up on a lot of shows, and I'm gonna pick two to elaborate on a little bit, because I think I've talked about most of these ad nauseum on the show, so I won't, like DuckTales and We Bare Bear, like, I've just been catching up on them because I got behind.
Okay.
But the two that I do want to bring up, OKKO, I know that I adore, and I know I've brought it up at least once on this show, is like the Cartoon Network show for these past couple of years. Yeah, even though no one's been talking about it, but it's great. And it just had its series finale recently.
Oh, shit.
Because no one was watching it, so of course it had to be canceled. Like, that's how business is done. Like, you can't just fund something that isn't being watched.
I mean, yeah.
But it was great. It had like a 3-part series finale, where the first 2 parts were like, it was a double-length episode that sort of tied up the main storyline of the season with like a Dragon Ball Z style tournament and all that. It was really, it was a lot of fun. But then, with no spoilers, of course, the last episode itself, which was a normal length episode of 11 minutes, was really touching, and it was sort of like time is moving forward so fast that the main character can't cope with it, and he thinks there's a villain that's like speeding up time. But very early in the episode, he has to realize that it's just him aging, and he needs to come to terms with it. And then the rest of the episode is like showing where this secondary character ends up and what this character is going to be doing and how this character ages. And it's really sweet the way they do it. And I like being able to see all these characters, some of which we haven't seen since season 1, and what they're doing. But the really neat thing with this is, because I don't know if you've ever seen an episode of the show, but
I have not.
How each episode is they'll start the episode, it'll go for like 20 seconds, and then a title card will pop up with like a transparent background over the episode with the episode title, and there will be a cool animation that goes with it. And in this final episode, time moving forward is denoted by a new title card popping up. So a card will pop up like this character's final journey, and then it shows like 10 seconds of that, and then another title card pops up, and that's how you know that things are progressing. I don't know, it's really neat.
Huh.
It's just cool altogether.
Yeah, I like that. It's like a little integration of, the way that the show is brought across into actual, usage of the episode.
Definitely. Not to get too much into that. I just really like that. I wanted to bring it up. But the other one, which I guess qualifies as a movie because it's in the title, it is the movie, but Steven Universe had their extra series finale with the film they released, and I watched that.
How was it? I saw like a couple clips floating around, like of the villain's introductory song, which I thought was amazing.
So does everybody else. It's well done. It's got like a techno beat to it. It's a good song. It's a good song.
Villain introductory songs, man, like they're either like really dull or kick ass. There is no middle ground for it.
I was talking to a mutual friend of ours not too long ago, and it's like, I think the only songs I have memorized from most any movie are the villain songs.
Yeah, because they're always the ones that tend to have like actual personality behind them, whereas the main hero ones tend to just be like shit about hope and honor and like doing stuff for love. Whereas the other one, it's like, I have this very specific goal in mind, and I'm gonna do it in like a super distinct way, either like crazy or like very weirdly often kind of slutty.
Yeah, and they're always the most fun too. I believe what we were talking about was Nightmare Before Christmas, and I was like, I know all these songs, but the only one that I know all the words to and can sing along with is Oogie Boogie's song.
Same, honestly.
And I can sing along with most of Kidnap the Sandy Claus, but I don't think I have the whole thing memorized.
I think I used to. But yeah, it's just because all the other ones are like, things like Jack's Lament, where it's like near Shakespearean level, like talking and everything, where it's like, okay, we can either do that, or we could have like this cool, funky jazz beat.
I mean, yeah, and This Is Halloween is overplayed. The only other song I even actually enjoy in that movie is the Town Hall Meeting song.
Oh, yeah.
Besides that, they're like, okay, I've heard it a million times. It's not necessarily the song's fault.
Yeah, it's just classic Danny Elfman at a certain point.
Yeah, classic Danny Elfman, not current, of course.
Yeah.
But anyway, Steven Universe.
Oh, yeah.
So the thing is that I'm upset with the movie because I really did like it, even though it follows the same format as the show, and I hate that because the main thing that bothered me with the series finale is how everyone is just redeemable to the main character. And it's like,
yeah,
you can be redeemed, and that's annoying, especially with like genocidal warlords.
Yeah, like I'm normally all for that style of thing, because like, I'm a bleeding heart, but like even I at that point was like, isn't this the woman like creature thing who basically committed genocide to her own people at a certain point?
Yeah, I don't get that. So going into this movie, I even posted a couple things online and commented to people's posts about it, where I'm like, I really hope this villain doesn't get redeemed in the end, and they just go off and they're like, yeah, whatever, up yours, I hate this place. But it's not the same comparison to like the main villains of the actual series, because it's actually the villain of the movie is a character that should be redeemable, like has a reason to do the things that they do. And I'm like, oh, I now I want you to be redeemed. You gave me a reason to want this, as opposed to the show.
Ah, well.
I don't know. And it was so much more epic, and things are happening and things are at stake, which I felt was a little odd because, you know, the finale of the show was not, and this movie is about some random nobody.
Yeah.
But I mean, I enjoyed it.
It's like the kind of thing, it's like, you guys could have pulled that one out earlier, but you'd waited until now?
Oh, that would have been like an awesome, like, season 2 finale or something. But no. Saved it for the movie, I guess.
Yeah. I still haven't seen it. I know the gist of the main villain, and like how it just kind of continues to contribute, that like one particular character who I'll avoid spoiling continues to be confirmed to be a complete ass.
Yeah, I guess that's the true villain of the whole series.
Oh, yeah,
There's
absolutely.
no liking that character whatsoever.
If you've seen up into the later seasons, you know who we're talking about, but like otherwise I'll avoid being specific. But yeah, it's just one character that's just kind of fucked everything. Yeah.
But
I love all the posts online that are still trying to defend them, and I'm just like, fucking no.
People stand behind like anything, so
stan culture is a mental plague, I swear.
It really is. It's kind of disgusting in a lot of cases.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, that's it for me. I talked about what I wanted to talk about.
It's like, now let's move on from a musical about, you know, genocidal warlords into a musical about even worse scums of humanity, salesmen.
I hate salesmen, dude.
God help us all about the plague of salesmen. This is a totally original bit.
Okay, so now to dive into the plot of The Music Man 1962 and 2003. These both being based on a stage musical. They're pretty much identical. I can't even think of anything I'd bring up after the fact that they do different. I'll just probably go through at the end of this and just name the 2003 cast replacements, and then we'll be done with it. We are introduced almost immediately to Professor Harold Hill, played by Robert Preston, a traveling salesman who is convinced to make a stop in River City, Iowa. His game? Selling instruments and uniforms to a town while promising to form the boys of the town into a genuine marching band. The only problem is, he's a swindler who doesn't know the first thing about leading a band and hightails it out of every location as soon as the instruments arrived and he has collected all the money. Upon arriving in River City, Hill meets an old associate of his who has gone straight, Marcellus Washburn, played by Buddy Hackett, who catches Hill up on all the details of the town, including the introduction of a pool table into the community, as well as the existence of the town's piano teacher and librarian, Marion Peru, played by Shirley Jones, who Hill soon starts to pursue romantically. Through a rousing musical number, soon after followed by yet another rousing musical number the next day at the town hall meeting, Professor Hill convinces all the adults in the town that the pool table is a dangerous addition to River City that will make all of their children degenerates, with the only solution being to allow him to form an all-boys band to keep the kids occupied with something proactive. He even manages to get Tommy Gillis, played by Timmy Everett, an older boy considered to be a leader of a gang, to help him with the band, by constructing some sort of piccolo music holder. After said town hall meeting, he pursues Marion to her home, where she begins to get suspicious of the man. She isn't the only one, as Mayor Shin, played by Paul Ford, is also suspicious and has the school board follow him around and attempt to get his credentials. In the events leading up to the arrival of the uniform and instruments, the following things happen. Professor Hill proceeds to get more and more townsfolk caught up in the band through his flim-flamming while also pursuing Marion consistently. Marion attempts to dig up dirt on the man with the help of her younger brother, Winthrop, played by Ron Howard, and Tommy Gillis moves forward in a relationship with Mayor Shin's daughter, Zenita, played by Susan Lukey. lucky. Eventually, everything arrives and people prepare to celebrate at a big event where the instruments and uniforms will be passed out, and Hill will collect the remainder of his money right before then. However, he and Marion have fallen too hard for each other, and he reconciles to himself that he can't leave. Meanwhile, an anvil salesman who's been roaming around the town, named Charlie Cowell, played by Harry Hickox, tells all the townsfolk about Hill's deception, and everyone rallies to bring the professor in for tar and feathering. Marion's family and Marcellus all attempt to get him to leave town, but he's just too in love and opts to stay, eventually being taken in by the unruly mob. At the town hall the next day, everyone prepares to persecute Hill when Marion convinces all but the mayor that he impacted them positively. Then, at the last moment, the boys come in dressed in their uniforms with their instruments and poorly play the Minuet in G, instructed by Marion the previous day. The parents all fawn over their children playing anyways, and Hill is finally released. He proceeds to march the band through the streets while the band somehow adequately plays the theme song to the movie. And, as just a follow-up to that, I should state that Harold Hill is played by Matthew Broderick in 2003, Marion Peru by Kristen Chenoweth, Marcellus Washburn by David Aaron Baker, Mayor Shin by Victor Garber, Tommy Gillis by Clyde Alves, Zanita by Cameron Adams, and Winthrop by Cameron Monaghan. Oh, and I guess Charlie Cowell by Patrick McKenna.
I mean, whatever.
Who cares about him?
Yeah, who gives a shit? But
Who cares about that monster?
I gotta say, you can really sum up a movie a lot quicker than I can. Of course, then I do also realize this is a much simpler film compared to the ones I've been doing.
I mean, yeah, it's fair. And also, I mean, I left some stuff out, like, and I simplified things, like, I didn't even bring up Winthrop's lisping, which sort of has a lot to do with Marion's falling for Hill. I didn't bring up, the anvil salesman and Marion having a conversation, and a little musical number there.
You didn't bring up the incredibly graphic scene in which the anvil salesman, hoisted by his own petard, gets killed by an anvil.
I completely forgot about that part. Yeah, I should have written that in.
It's horrible. I threw it from the train, like the other salesman there. Hey, take this, bitch! With like one less guy that worried about competition. It was horrible.
Yeah, I probably should have, but, I mean, we're pressed for time.
Right. It's like that, plus like the alien invasion scene, which was kind of out of place, but whatever.
Now, I think that was actually a deleted ending, because I didn't see that one, but I read about it.
Oh, okay. It's like, we gotta coordinate the versions we find, because like the one I found on the, like, from that back alley peddler, he was like really insistent about it, and I was like, I mean, it's only $5.
Right. I mean, I guess, but we can't all purchase our films from back alley peddlers.
Right.
I mean, we had the same issue on the Little Shop of Horrors episode.
Right, exactly.
Which also was a musical.
Yeah.
Full circle. Speaking of...
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so for full circle for this one, we don't have anything. Stuart, thoughts on the movie?
Oh, okay. Shit. I didn't see this one coming.
Yeah, it's empty.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's kind of shocking. I don't know. I tend to leech off the energy for a moment. I'm so caught with my pants down.
You're flustered. I get it. You're flustered, but we have to press on.
Okay.
Our civic duty.
I thought the movie was really good. No, I
okay.
can't do that. I can't do
the
fake thing. I'll actually get into it.
It's like I'll give a speech while you prepare in the back.
Yeah, no.
I'm score.
Okay. But no, it's like I gotta say, I'm glad we finally got to do like kind of a 50s 60s musical, because I mentioned on the shows before, I do like at least some musicals, but most of the ones I've always liked have been like 50s and 60s musicals. Like I think I've seen part of Music Man in the past, but I can't remember for sure. But between this, White Christmas, Singing in the Rain, Annie, it's like these are all been, which obviously those are all stage plays in their own right, and in more cases started off as stage plays. But just the way they were just portrayed in these earlier, like these 50s and 60s films, it just always brought a little skip to my heart, like the kind of, the kind of memories of back home with grandma and just kind of hanging out with dinner and dessert and everything, just watching an old cassette tape of it. Just kind of some nice little nostalgic moments to it. God rest her. So it's
I hear you. I definitely remember you mentioning that on the Little Shop episode, because I think I remember you saying you liked the movie okay, but you preferred the original Little Shop better.
Yeah.
And I think you brought up that you did prefer the 50s and 60s style, which is funny because Little Shop is supposed to take place in the 60s.
Right. It's just like the
I
style of music and everything, and just like I think maybe it's just how my brain works. I really like that very eloquent, fast talking or fast singing style that they always did. Where it's just kind of like, it's different from a lot of the more dramatic films we've done, where it's just kind of, just hard men talking about hard things and that sort of thing. Whereas in this one, it's just, oh, guys are just being flamboyant and shit and just having fun with the whole deal. It's like, it's a lot of fun,
Oh, no, definitely. And, I mean, I tend to go for that stuff. I'm a huge musical fan. I'm a musical guy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm the one that picked Little Shop. I picked this one. I hadn't thought about it until a couple days ago, but unintentionally, we have one coming up in a couple episodes that is also a musical.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
I get
no
them in
spoilers.
there.
No spoilers.
No,
obviously.
Of course not. There's plenty that could be.
And honestly, I kind of wish that I had known that Music Man was you had a remake, because I would have picked it otherwise, because like I said, it's one of those things I've wanted to see the whole thing, because like I just know it from reputation, just from the songs and everything.
Oh yeah, it's definitely something that I've never seen. I can't even say I've seen it partway through. I've just seen maybe one or two clips, and then, being a fan of musicals, I listened to the soundtrack, or rather a few songs from the soundtrack, quite a bit.
I'm pretty sure this is actually the first case of me seeing it must have been like a thing, like maybe like my family described the concept to me, but like this is the first time of me seeing like a actual barbershop quartet. It's like, it's just like one of those things where it's like, just you never think back on it. It's like, when's the first time I heard about that kind of thing? And I'm pretty sure this is the first time I heard about it, because I thought back to it. I was like, this seems like deeply familiar, like more than just I've seen this before, and more this is set an archetype.
So, wait, you mean just barbershop quartets in general?
Yeah, like I had not, for a lot of my life, I just didn't know the concept of it. I was very young when obviously this movie's older than both of us,
right?
And so I think it just, maybe my grandma had put it on because I had asked her, like, what's that? It was like she had mentioned it before, and she was like, oh, well, I can show you. And then that happened.
Oh, okay, I see. I guess I've known since I was little, because The Simpsons Homer's Barbershop Quartet in season 5? I mean, that was a whole episode, so...
I'm sure I've seen other stuff that had it, but like the concept of it just didn't register in my brain until someone gave me a distinct example.
All right, I see.
But yeah, it's like, of course, I say all this, and this is all kind of could be referring to either one. It's mostly referring to the first one, which like is kind of, I'm trying to move towards like how to talk about the 2003 one, but it's like it's very difficult because like they are very similar, because like it is just the same play, but like it's also, we're obviously it's still in the introductory phase of thinking about it. It's like the more I think about it, it's like on the surface these are very similar, but then once you start delving into it, oh my god, these movies are very different. Like it really comes back to that whole like kind of the argument that I made between The Borrowers and Secret World of Arrietty, where it's like never, like there are fewer cases where you can see the differences in style between either different cultures or in this case different decades when you compare it to something from either the late 90s or the early 2000s.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that's the problem with this, is because these two movies are almost identical in plot, not just plot, but like dialogue and scene setting too, because they're based on the same material. And unless you get really crazy, like comparing Phantom of the Opera to Phantom of the Paradise or something, unless you start getting avant-garde with it, they're gonna be the exact same story because it's a musical. Like,
yeah,
it's taken from a play, a musical. Like it's gonna be pretty direct. Where the differences in this come in is just how it's done, the technique, the film making aspect of it, the acting, the way the songs are sung,
the pizzazz,
like, the light like not shining through Matthew Broderick's eyes at all when he looks at the camera.
Oh my god. The weird, like, fuzzy filter everything seems to have. Like, they just need to clean off the lens.
Yeah, it's like they wiped Vaseline on the lens. What was that about?
It drove me freaking crazy. It's like, what is it? Like, what happened? Okay, like, I gotta just say this because this is something that's always been on my chest. What the hell happened in the late 90s and early 2000s where, like, it just feels like there was such a hard shift in, like, how movies look. Like, it went from, like, even, like, as late into the 80s where it had that whole technique of having wider shots and, like, things had a lot more clear with lenses. Color correction was very minimal. And then all of a sudden, the 90s and the 2000s hit, and it's, like, very close-up shots. You end up with shit like, you know, in, like, that Son of the Mask movie where it's, like, nothing but wide-angle lenses, and then, like, or to have one that's apt, the Inspector Gadget movie with Broderick, where it's just, like, super weirdly tight shots that are, like, have a lot of, like, near body horror level shots of people's faces and everything, where it's just like, just chill out, please.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what the genesis of that is. I'm pretty sure the progenitor of all of those is Ernest movies, where he just like shoves the camera in his mouth.
Yeah, I forgot about those.
Jim Varney is a thespian, thank you.
Fair enough. But yeah, it's just like, I got it, like, and, like, for all the time that we've watched these, and I've always tried to be kind of impartial about the techniques, because, like, you know, I recognize that techniques and everything are going to change over the years with filming, but I just don't like how they do it, especially in this one, where it's not as bad as other ones we've seen. I still think The Borrowers was very guilty of, like, very 90s syndrome, but
post Ren and Stimpy disease.
Yeah. It's just, there's something about it, just like, it just takes away a lot of the kind of, like, just levity of the whole situation, where it's just like, it really is just like Men in Tights level stuff where they're dancing around in the, you know, 63 version, but then you get into the 2003 one, it's just kind of like, they're just kind of here. There's, like, very tight shots that kind of, in many cases, I'm pretty sure were deliberately to make sure that you couldn't see how small the sets actually were. It's
yeah, like, the 2003 one feels very formulaic. Mm-hmm. Not from a writer's perspective, obviously, because it's the same, like, musical. It's the same everything, but it feels like, okay, it is song time now. Everyone do the song now, and then they do the song, and then they walk away. Like, to bring up a specific example, the song, the sadder but more experienced girl for me, or whatever the hell that song's called.
Oh, like the Wiser Girl, I think.
Yeah, the sadder but wiser girl for me. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
Where Harold Hill is singing to his friend Marcellus about essentially being in love with Marion, but not including her name, really. In the 2003 one, I swear I was watching that, and Marcellus is trying to hook him up with his girlfriend's sister, and Broderick starts talking to him, like, you know, I don't really go for, you know, and he just, like, phases into the song like it's song time now. It's like there was a cut made in the sound. It's like there's not in the video. It's weird.
Yeah, there's an audible clunk there.
Yeah, I was like, this is an odd choice.
Yeah, it's just like it happened with a few songs for me, like with that and Madam Librarian. It felt very distinct. Like, so many of the bits in 63, I can't necessarily say they feel more natural, but they seem to fit better, because it's like everyone is constantly kind of in that blustery, like, kind of cornering you in the most boring part of your life. Oh my god, I have to tell you this kind of thing. Where it's like, if they break into song, it doesn't feel unnatural. Where it's like, okay, yeah, this is just kind of how they do. This is just what Iowa's like, apparently.
Yeah, it's the Iowa.
Yeah, which also a very good song. But in 2003, it's just, it does definitely feel like it kind of feels like more like they're all on a set of a Disney park, and they're all just distinctly actors just walking around, and like every now and again they'll just get like a cue in their earpiece, or like someone will put a coin in the tip jar, and all of a sudden they have to start singing like it's Cold Stone on crack.
Yes. Okay, come on. It's time to do 76 trombones down Main Street. It's noon.
It's like shit.
I'm not in my position.
That and the Wells Fargo one especially. Like I thought it was really fun in '63. Like how everyone was like there really just is a palpable level of enthusiasm everyone seems to have in the original, or it's just like every moment it's like they absolutely want to break into song. It's just they need the slightest excuse. It's like, oh my god, I need to do this now. Which like it works for most cases. I shouldn't give all the praise to it, because there are a lot of cases where I'm just like, do we really need this another song of this? It's like, you know, I get that like there's a whole running bit where there's four guys. I mentioned a barbershop quartet. There's four guys who are trying to corner Professor Hill on getting his credentials of whether he's legit or not, and he tricks them into forming a spontaneous barbershop quartet, and it keeps distracting
like 5
them.
times.
Yeah, and it's like at the third or fourth time, I'm just like, okay, I get it. He's tricking them into starting up another song. I don't think we need to see the whole thing, or at the very least, make it a bit more like something's happening. Because like for as much enthusiasm, as much drama as I do enjoy the '63 one, God damn, do movies of that caliber drag at times. Like, yeah,
they really do. I mean, that's a plus for the 2003 one. It shaves off like 30 minutes.
Oh my god, yeah. Like I that's definitely a big praise of it. Like it distinctly, even when it doesn't it shave stuff off, it does like more stuff with the scene. Like, you know, I feel like I shouldn't be giving the impression that I'm giving it as much shit as I actually am. I did still enjoy it, but what the main thing of it being like, there are one scene in particular is there's another scene where it starts off with the barbershop quartet starting up another song, but it then integrates in Marion kind of lamenting, singing about love for like the 4th time. But that's in both movies, so I can't really fault it. And in the original, it just kind of has them both just kind of sitting down with two, like kind of a fade shot combining the two. I don't really know what that exact shot style is called. It's like an editing trick. Yeah,
they just pieced it together. I do like that, even though it's just symbolic of the times.
Right, and it's just like two little vignettes that they had next to each other, which, like, you know, it still looks nice, but it still just kind of felt very static in like a lot of cases. Outside of the big numbers, like with the whole town and everything, the individual things, especially with Marion and just like her mother, like, although there's a song early on with Marion and her mother that was really good. But
the piano song?
Yes.
That is a good one.
Mostly just because of like how they're just playing off each other and playing off the bit. But when it's just solo songs like that, it really needs something to drive it. But the 2003 one actually does. And that same one with the quartet and Marion singing, it actually has them walking through the town, and at one point they actually pass by each other as they're singing and as their songs are kind of combining. It's like, no, that's actually pretty cool and pretty fun. Just kind of seeing, it's not as like, I'm trying to find the right wording. It's like they're more enthusiastic in the 63 one, but the 2003 one feels more like a genuine fairy tale, where it's like it has that whole fuzzy, airy look to everything. And it's like there are moments where the sun is shining right off of Matthew Broderick's face, and he's like looks angelic and stuff. It's like, it's cheesy, it's campy, but it does kind of get a very genuine feeling across, and it's like I actually like that a lot. It felt a lot more warm. Like, I mean, obviously that's kind of that must be what they were going for with the 90s and 2000s movie. They actually found color correction would be like, oh, we can actually give an impression with the visuals rather than just having a straight, very crisp shot. Which, like,
I think a very popular color palette in the late 90s, early 2000s was red, orange, and yellow.
For the like family movies, for the harsher rated R movies, it's like like gray and like hard reds and stuff. Like that one movie.
As soon as Sin City comes out, like,
yeah,
it's all out the window. Like, everything is going to be either harsh noir gray or it's going to be straight black and white.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's like, there's that one movie, I think it was called The Island, had like Ewan McGregor and everything in it, and it practically looks like it's like a black and white film, but they replaced the white with like umber orange or something.
Ew.
I know.
I don't want to see this.
It looks awful. like objectively as a film, I don't know, but literally looking at it, it just looks terrible.
Yeah, no thanks. I don't think I'll be watching that one.
Yeah, and then that and like Minority Report and stuff. Which like that one's pretty guilty.
Yeah, I hear. But well, I mean, that movie's guilty of a lot of things.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But at least on the subject that we're on.
Yeah. So not really stealing it away, because I kind of want to stay on the same topic, but for the songs, I referenced a bit earlier. I hadn't seen this up to this point, but I had listened to select songs, and that's because with a lot of musicals, I will listen to the complete soundtrack one time, and I'll decide the songs that I like, and then I will proceed to listen to those or add them to a playlist. And for the music, man, I like the story. I'm not a big fan of the music.
Really?
There's like 4 or 5 songs that I enjoy from the soundtrack, and that's the piano song that the Perus do, Marion and her mother.
Yep.
The Wells Fargo Wagon I like. You Got Trouble is a great song.
Oh yeah, that's a really good one.
I like Shapoopy, but really only when Buddy Hackett's singing it.
Yeah.
And there's another one I can't think of right now. I know I'll think of it eventually, but
I was really big on Madam Librarian.
Yeah, that one. Marion is a good song. Those are like the 5 I enjoy. 76 Trombones is the theme of the movie, and I like the music itself, but I hate the lyrics to that song.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy it.
They are just kind of like it is kind of cheesy level up to the next level on that one.
Yeah, and it plays consistently because it's the theme of the movie. I don't enjoy it.
Yeah, it's like there are just a whole lot of songs that just kind of do. And I've mentioned before, I very often have just movies on my laptop, and it just gets to a certain point where I just start tapping the right arrow key, just to like skip ahead a few seconds, skip ahead a few seconds, skip ahead a few seconds, because it's like, oh my god, if we have to hear about Marion singing about her love life one more fucking time.
Oh, that's Say Goodnight to Your Love Upon a Star, whatever the name of that one is so Disney level trite. It's hard to sit through.
And I loved Kristen Chenoweth as Marion, because like it felt like she had some emotion behind the damn thing. But like anytime, oh damn, I don't have the
Shirley Jones,
thank you. Anytime she started like singing it, I really did just kind of glazed over, because it's like I think she's a good singer and everything, but like anytime she was doing the more lamenting songs, I just kind of didn't care. It's just like it very clearly sounded like she wasn't singing it like on the spot, which like I know basically no movies do that, but at the same time it was very distinct for me in this one for some reason. Like Robert Preston, I thought he was stellar, like in every scene he was in, but
he is the definitive. Sorry, I'll let you finish your point because I was going to try.
Oh yeah, no, it's just like I was just going to say, it's like just comparing him to Shirley Jones is it's hard to like her performance that much, at least with the singing.
Yeah, but so as we've said before, this was a musical made by Meredith Willson before it was ever a film.
Yes. And
there's some people that carried over from the stage, from the musical to the 1962 movie.
62.
No, it's 62.
Oh, it is 62. God damn it! I've been saying 63 the whole time.
I didn't even notice. 62, 2003.
Yeah, we had. Oh, that's it. Yeah. Damn it! And we had that conversation before we even started as well, where I thought the wrong year as well.
But like the Buffalo Bills, who play the members of the school board that are constantly breaking into song, like they were originally in the musical production.
Yeah.
And Robert Preston himself was. He was Harold Hill in the musical production and then carried over to the movie.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So much so that when they were doing the movie, Warner Brothers, MG, I think it was Warner Brothers, they were talking about casting, and they tried going after, like, Dean Martin for the main role.
That would have sucked.
They talked about getting Frank Sinatra, but I don't think they actually pursued him. It was just tossed around.
I can't imagine he'd do it anyway.
He probably wouldn't care. They also, I'm pretty sure, who was it? Gene Kelly, maybe? They went up to someone who was in, like, those Holiday Inn and White Christmas films.
Yeah. That sounds about right.
And, yeah, I just can't remember who it was, but he essentially was like, no, I can't do it. There's no way I'd be any better than Preston. Preston's the person for the role, and so they hired him from the musical to be in the movie, and I think it was great, especially when you compare to Broderick, which I've talked about, like, Election, which is a movie that I really like on this show, and I think Matthew Broderick is a good actor, but he seems so tired.
Yeah, and like very stiff.
Very stiff. He really cannot compare.
It's like it really did come down to it, like, and I hate to bash the man, but I'm about to bash the man, so let's get into it. But it really came down to the situation of these two men, which one would I actually buy something from? Like, I would buy something from, you know, the 62 version of Hill in a freaking heartbeat because I'm a sucker. Broderick, not so much. Because, like,
probably not.
He comes off as, like, simultaneously overly dopey and, like, incompetent and, like, super creepy. Because, like, the way he kind of, like, in, you know, in Preston's case, the way, like, him pursuing Marion really does have the air of he's distinctly trying to get under her skin to try to, like, get her on his side because he sees her to be the more clever person in town. It's like she kind of, like, he knew, like, oh, librarian lady, she's gonna be the librarian and also a music teacher. She's gonna be my biggest enemy with all this. I need to get to her. And it really does seem like he has actually a plan to it. And while, you know, there is still obviously that 50s, 60s quote-unquote charm that's basically just kind of bullying into liking you, but it's not as bad as in some movies. But it really does actually seem like he's doing it, like, with charisma and style and pizzazz and chutzpah. But with Broderick, it's just like, he's just all nasally and everything. I'm just like, all right, bud, you're trying. I know you are, but, like, come on. And I think that might also just be, like, a sign of the filming style. Again, like, even just the acting, like, even seeing the acting style is so distinctly different. Like, I think the biggest telltale of it really is that introductory scene to the whole both movies, where it's a bunch of salesmen all on the train talking about, you know, Hill and their issues with selling because of him. And then, you know, the first one, it's this whole wide shot of all these guys, like, you know, riffing off each other and fast talking and all this sort of stuff, and it's like, yeah, it has this, like, very clear eloquence to everything. And, you know, Hill gets off the train and, like, revealing his suitcase, like, so it's, like, quick and snappily that everyone's just like, wait, what? And so he dashes off and everyone just looks out the window stunned after everything that they've just said. And then in the 2003, it's like everyone is just kind of acting a bit dopey about the whole thing. Like, them, like, there's one particular line, there's one guy he's saying, what do you talk, what do you talk, what do you talk, what do you talk? Where he's, like, trying to talk, like, asking, like, what people are talking about, like, what do you do, like, what do you mean, like, what's up with all this nonsense? In the 62 version, it comes off very legit, because it just kind of seems like, oh, this is just how these guys are talking. But it seems very forced in 2003, where it's like...
Yeah, it's like, these are the words, I need to sing them, that's part of the song.
Yeah, and there's no real energy to the train car that they're in, there's not nearly as many people, and they're just kind of talking in like normal speaking voices, but just talking kind of funnily. And then as Broderick leaves, he kind of has this wry smile on and everything, but he's still just kind of like limping off the train as he just kind of casually picks up his suitcase. And the one guy is like, "Oh, it says Professor Hill on it. Oh my God, it says Professor Hill on it. That's the guy we were talking about. It's the guy."
He has like a cartoon Wild take where he's like, his name's Professor Hill.
Exactly.
Professor Hill? What? And his eyes fly out of his skull.
And then he keeps like saying, "That's the guy we were talking about. That's him right there." And it's like, it's simultaneously both like making the character dumb and kind of also like assuming the audience is kind of dumb. like I think that's a very big telltale sign of, like, you know, there are distinct lines throughout the 2003 one that were changed from the 62 version. Like there's a scene where Marion provides a book to the mayor to try and that he wanted, like that supposedly holds the proof that Hill's a fake, but it ends up having information torn out of it because Marion's protecting Hill now. And when he confronts her about it, she says, "Thanks for the derby ride, lady. I went through that whole thing and didn't find anything." And then it just says, thanks for like basically lying to me or something in the 2003 version. And it's like, did you really not keep that line? Did you really think audiences wouldn't be able to pick it up? Like, it's stuff like that where it really just seems like there's a mild contempt for the intelligence of the viewers, where it really just is just falling into that trap of more dopey characters versus clever characters. And I think that's the distinct reason I like characters like that in the 62 version. It's an actual sign of like skill and ability and that sort of thing, versus it just kind of seems like Broderick stumbles into success, even though he's clearly got control of the situation, but the way he bears himself, it doesn't seem like he did it on purpose.
Yeah, I mean, I started to pick up on that a bit from the beginning, not just with the characters, but the whole movie itself does feel like the audience is stupid. I have to explain things to them. Yeah. And I picked up on that mainly because in the train car scene, when they're all singing that really obnoxious song, in the 62 one, it's like, yeah, this guy, his name's Harold Hill. He doesn't do any research and he's a moron, but he screws us all over. And then at the end, he walks off. I didn't drop my name. And then it shows the briefcase, you know. And then the audience is clued in to who it is. But in the 2003 one, during the song, every time they mention Hill by name or like allude to Hill, it cuts to Matthew Broderick, like a close-up of his face looking down at the table, like smiling. Like, hey, that's the guy. He's on the train. He's with them. And they do it so consistently, it's really annoying.
Yeah, and like, I guess it definitely is kind of the clashing of worlds between, you know, theater and film in this case, because, you know, that's how you set up an overture and you set up, you know, the attitude of a play. Is that typically the intro song isn't about a distinct character. It has a whole bunch of characters just setting up. There's energy and there's excitement, and like this is setting up kind of the things that'll be brought up, you know, as things go along, or things that'll be brought up as twists later, like, you know, how his information gets revealed by the anvil salesman, that sort of stuff. And so it doesn't need to introduce the main character. It's like, and that way it also sets up the exact kind of character he is when he does get introduced.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of is what it is, because they wouldn't have zoom-ins on the character's face in a musical production, because there aren't cameras. Well, yeah. There usually are, but you're not watching it through the camera. You're sitting in the audience. So
right. It's like, and
I guess that's where the difference is. But
I guess that is kind of a distinct thing. I guess we've noticed before. But like, 50s and 60s, like earlier films definitely feel like they're trying to emulate the feeling of a stage play, which I think that might be the reason why so many earlier films are considered classics, is because they've kind of hit that sweet spot of both. Where it's like, it has the production value and editing of a film, but it has the theatricality of, well, theater.
Yeah.
And so you end up with those giant set pieces and everything that are just like, whoa, this is crazy. And then you see them in, like, 2003, and you're like, okay, this is kind of toned.
That's why those older movies feel more realistic, and like you're actually there, whether you're watching a play or you're actually in the film, is because is because they're in that sweet spot, like you said. Yeah. And there's not nearly as much cutting because it feels unnecessary. Like, this is definitely not a tangent, but it kind of is. Like, the Batman 66 TV show will have a fight scene, and it's kind of a cluster because there's so many characters you don't know what's going on, but it's still fun. And people are just running around beating each other up, and really the only cuts that happen, you know that a cut's made because Batman will punch someone and then a title card will be on the screen that says BAM or POW, and then it'll move to somewhere else. But the cuts are few and far between, whereas in like a Christopher Nolan Batman film, there's like a cut every 5 seconds. And right. It definitely doesn't do it to a lot of people. A lot of people consider those films more realistic because of mood or emotions or because it reflects our world more right. realistically, whatever. But it takes me out of it.
Yeah, and there's a distinction between each thing. Like, you know, obviously, I'm a huge fan of The Dark Knight just because, like, how it's actually one of the few cases of a realistic superhero film, like, actually done well. But I think that is the shot style. That's definitely something we've talked about before, where it's, you know, earlier on, it definitely felt like you were watching an experience versus later films, since, you know, the idea of facial acting and these deeper like monologues and shit and everything, with having big extreme close-ups and everything. It didn't feel as realistic because it didn't feel like you were actually watching it. It felt like you were like in the middle of the conversation, where it's like, I don't feel like I have a good place in the middle of all this, you know.
It's like I feel like a third wheel between Batman and Joker right now.
Exactly. It's like the camera keeps shifting around. It feels like you're running behind the camera, like, sorry, I'm breaking your shot. it's like, so it's like, you know, and movies obviously have made up for that, for, you know, like obviously with Dark Knight, it makes up for that with just such commitment to its style and a consistency of everything that's going through it that can really only be done with a like very skilled hand. And then, but that's the problem though, is that you didn't necessarily have to have that skilled of a hand to have a realistic feeling movie around the 50s and 60s. You just had to have decent acting and decent set pieces.
Right, and definitely I don't think The Dark Knight's a bad movie either. I enjoy it too.
Right.
I especially love the fact that it made the Joker a character that people on the internet can look up to.
We live in a society.
I've heard. But that I do see where the divide is there, and when you're going for something that is a musical and people break out into song, I think it's more easily distracting if someone is singing a line and you're focusing on all these characters and then it cuts to like a close-up of someone's face while the song is still going on, because it feels like, are we not going to acknowledge the people singing in the background? Like, can we go back to all the stuff that's actually happening?
Yeah, and the 2003 one definitely has a problem with that in a few scenes, and like I said, it kind of makes up for it in a few cases with, you know, like with Marion, whenever she's singing around her house, it's like, it's showing her going from room to room, and it feels kind of grand, and like there's actually some genuine emotion behind everything she's doing. But then once you get to the bigger pieces, it really is just describing just the shift of the times. All the personal pieces feel very more legit and feel very poignant, but then with the exception of, like, you know, the sadder but wiser girl. But then you get out to the big set pieces, it just kind of feels like weird and stilted. Like, it's like they're not actually doing it. It really just is like the Disney, like, you know, shot pieces every now and again.
Yeah, and I mean, to go off that stilted thing, I'm not gonna entirely derail this, but for like for the song You Got Trouble, right?
Yeah.
It's a good song, and I like it, and I think Preston does a great job in the 62 version singing it. I think he's better at performing it than Broderick is, especially because, you know, the grand gestures, and he has emotion in his voice. Like, he's not just singing a song, he's like communicating through the song.
Oh yeah, it was great. It was like, man, it was the kind of thing where it's like, man, I'm starting to get swayed by this guy.
Yeah, but in the 2003, I think the 2003 version actually does something right in that they make the song more active. Like, in the 62 version, he's outside and he's gathering this group of people, and he goes to the statue in what I assume is the town square, and he's sort of almost giving a sermon in front of the statue, which is good in and of itself. But I do have to like how the 2003 one handles it, where he's sort of going around town to the different businesses, and he gets like a haircut and a hat.
Yeah, that was fun.
Each place he goes to, he's sort of accruing more people to his flock almost.
Yeah, and I think it also kind of felt a bit more real just in the context of what was happening, because in the 62 one, it kind of established right out of the gate that the people didn't like him, but then all of a sudden he so quickly riles them into a frenzy behind him, like right after that, just by bringing up a pool table. Whereas in 2003, it just kind of like they more were just kind of like indifferent to his presence there, and so he was able to kind of get under their skin a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Like, or at least more realistically.
Who is this mystery man? It's almost like he's been here his whole life. He just goes to the barber. He's like, all right, give me a cut.
Yeah, and it really does show off. It does a lot more showing versus telling with his character, with Broderick's version of the character, which I did actually like. Where it really did just show, it's like, hey, he just integrated right the hell in. Whereas Preston kind of, like I said, like in the classic style, almost bullies his way into kind of being the head honcho of all of this. Which,
yeah.
like, it's still fun in its own way, because it shows he's very clever in the way he does these things, but it feels more like, despite his, very stiff nature and his, like, the lack of emotion to his voice, Broderick definitely feels like he's the more natural person in the role, like, where it definitely feels like, I am this guy and I can just do this. Like, this is just what I do for a living.
Yeah, because it is, yeah.
Yeah, whereas the other one's, like, he's just, like, Preston is just so grating, just naturally.
Mm.
In a good way, obviously.
No, of course. And before I get off the subject of You Get Trouble, I did bring up the song in and of itself, that I think it's performed better by Robert Preston than Matthew Broderick, and it really does. I don't want to lose that thread. It really does feel like he's actually communicating through the song, and I think that carries through to a lot of the other numbers when we're comparing these two, because in the 2003 one, You Got Trouble, what really stood out to me, because I know that song so well, I can sing the whole thing, is at the very end, he's sort of giving his speech to the mothers of River City, and I noticed when Matthew Broderick sang it, he's like, is he starting to memorize words like swell and so's your old man? And he just kind of says them. But if you notice in the 62 one, he's like, is he starting to memorize words like swell, and then everyone chanting trouble, they also swell, and then he realizes he has them, like he said something that they responded to, so he goes, aha, and then he continues with the rest of it, whereas Matthew Broderick doesn't do that, and neither does the audience. The trouble is pretty stagnant.
Right.
Music theory with Jacob. But yeah, it's just like, this is the song, we're doing it, whereas they're actually reacting to one another in the 62 version, which I've always liked that. He's like, is he memorizing words like so's your old man? And then the chorus of Trouble like peaks for a bit, because it's like you got their attention, and he like feeds off of that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I definitely feel like it does have the moment of where it's kind of attributing it back to the audience watching, like the actual visual audience, not the audience that not Hill's audience. But it actually kind of signals it back to the people watching. Like, it's in a situation where, you're not going to have as active of a scene in Broderick's case, where they can give that information with closer shots and wider set pieces and that sort of thing, where, it shows him going around and becoming more friendly with everybody. So, it has that benefit going for it, the 2003 one, where it's like, it does more with less in some cases, but then also less with more, so...
I guess so, yeah. I guess just from a music perspective, I like the feeling of that song is he's trying to hook these people.
Oh, yeah, no, I absolutely... I still prefer the 62 version of the song.
Yeah, because I praised the way that the 2003 one handles the framing of it and the moving around the town, so I do think that that's done well. Just when I think about listening to the soundtrack version, it's like he's trying to convince these people of something, and then at the end you can tell he's finally hooked onto them, and that's what I sort of I mean, I like musicals, so I guess the music is mostly what I respond to.
Oh yeah, and it's like, and that makes the most sense. It's like, it's gotta, if it can't hook onto the people watching, like how it can't hook onto you yourself, how can you expect to hook onto these people in the actual show?
Right. That at that point it becomes unrealistic, and you want to stop.
Right. So it is good design and good acting. Honestly, it's just quality all the way through, despite it still kind of dragging at times.
Yeah. And I mean, there's good actors all around.
Oh yeah.
In both. I mean, Matthew Broderick leaves a lot to be desired, I think, personally. Like, not even just singing, but the acting too. Like I said, he feels tired.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of other people in that movie that they're pulling their weight.
Oh yeah.
Like, I honestly cannot choose a favorite Mrs. Peru, Marion's mother.
Oh, yeah.
I love both of those actresses, the way they handle that role. I don't think I could pick a favorite one if you forced me to.
Mm-hmm. I definitely think Kristen Chenoweth was definitely the breakout for me. Like, I loved her as Marion. I thought she was like, she had something about her that was just a bit more snappy. I think I just like her voice better. And then that plus, I think like she was my favorite in that case, and I think my favorite in the 62 was the wife, was Mayor Shin's wife, whose actress name I can't remember.
Oh, Eulalie Shin, yeah. Oh, what was her name? Hermione
Pert
Gingold.
Oh no, that's Mrs. Brew. Sorry.
Oh,
Okay, yeah, Hermione. I think Gingold.
Gingold, Gingold.
Who knows?
However it is, no, she was great.
Oh yeah, I loved just her every word out of her mouth, just with like that very distinct Midwest pompousness. That was like, okay, yeah, no, she's doing this act perfectly.
Balzac.
Professor, you're wrong. They have hated each other for 15 years.
Which
it's just one consonant away from just being British.
Oh yeah, true. She does a lot of theatrics with hers, and I really like that. I like that scene too, where it's like those you'll never see those four men away from each other for the rest of their lives, and she's just like, they've hated each other for forever. Like this really theatric performance.
Oh yeah.
But in the 2003 one, he just says it to Tommy.
Yeah,
and
Tommy and
he's like,
and Zanita.
Yeah, and the mayor's daughter, Zanita, I guess she has a name. She's just like, they've hated each other since It's impossible, but she's the one that delivers the line like, they've hated each other since kindergarten. It's like, how do you know that?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's some small minor changes that annoy me, not because they're bad. Like, she could have said it in the original one, like whatever, but it's a change that I don't understand. Like, why was the change made? It's not necessary.
There was a distinct, there must have been some school of thought that came around at the end of the 80s where someone just decided, what we have too much of? Pizzazz. Let's get rid of that. It's like, and just you see that just so many films, and only recently have we seen films kind of breaking out of that mold, but it just really, they're just, for a long time, just actors just really put everything in their fucking parts that just kept it from being cheesy. It just like they were so dedicated and so good with their own character that it came off as legit, and it kept you within the feeling and the tone of the movie. Whereas now between 1995 and 2010 or 15, there's just this distinct, very cold version of reciting lines and everything that people are just like, fuck it. But now partially like there's been some more stuff in Marvel movies, and as more movies come out, that they're actually starting to kind of come back into that and actually have some fun with the roles.
Yeah, that is something that I think is lacking. Like, Robert Preston is great, and we just said her name. Hermione is great. Paul Ford is great, though Victor Garber, who was Mayor Shin in the remake, I think he does a good job too.
Oh yeah.
But
Buddy Hackett was great.
Buddy Hackett is fantastic. I already said specifically his version of Shapoopy makes that song. Otherwise, I'd hate it. Like,
And they replaced him with
it's just a stupid nonsense song, but
and they replaced him with such a boring version, like the Brooklyn Kid thing that every fucking early 2000s movie has to have. Like the sidekick is like some spunky kid from New York or whatever the hell.
Yeah,
and he wasn't in the actual show, but he still sounded like some Brooklynite. It was like, fucking shut up.
Yeah.
Go back to
Why
Newsies.
have that when you can have comic legend Buddy Hackett?
Yeah,
I don't know that he was a legend at that point, but
it just like the more and more I think about the version of Marcellus, which the actor was David Aaron Baker.
yeah.
The more and more I think about it, the more and more I see his character and go, so the Newsy tryout didn't work out so well, bud.
You had to go to this other Disney production.
Yeah, it was just kind of funny. I just thought about that, and I was just like, all right, yeah, no, this guy, either that or he's like one of the Newsies who who had a hard time getting work.
Oh boy,
because like Newsies did come out a couple of years before then. Like I think.
Yeah, it was like 98 or 99, I think.
Yeah, I want to say 98.
But Buddy Hackett, I mean, I think he's hilarious, and he's a great actor, and we can revisit him in the future if we do an episode on It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, or The Little Mermaid, even.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
We can do either of those.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Fuck it.
Yeah, Buddy Hackett month. But if we just mentioned Newsies and Little Mermaid, I don't want to bury this here. We haven't really brought up that the 2003 production is a Disney production.
Yeah, and like I kind of not necessarily alluded to that, but kind of just like showed my hand with that with the the comparison of it just felt like a Disney park rendition in a lot of the songs, where it's like there's a distinct feeling like, yeah, this is Disney, where it's like the kind of lack of effort. It's like it's the lighthearted version of Holes in a way.
Yeah. I didn't even know that this was a Disney production until I've said countless times I buy physical copies and I put it in, and the ads I got before the movie were Home on the Range and Lilo and Stitch. And I was like, there's a theme here. There's a bunch of Disney animated movie commercials before this. And I just kept seeing other things that we could do episodes on, like the Jamie Lee Curtis, Lindsay Lohan Freaky Friday. I'm like, oh, we can touch that. It's like Mary Poppins showed up. That is the remake.
Oh, fucking hell. All right.
There was like a 60s or 70s Freaky Friday, which was also Disney, I'm pretty sure. It's like the Parent Trap, where everyone remembers the 90s Parent Trap as the original, but no.
Yeah, that's weird.
There was one in like the 60s or the 70s.
It's like that with Nutty Professor, I guess.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Or Flubber being a Disney remake of a Disney movie.
Oh my god.
The Absent-Minded Professor. Disney's
been doing this for a while. Their hands are dirty.
Oh yeah, their hands are filthy in this.
Yeah, it's like people go on about like they're doing all this stuff lately. It's like, man, this has been their business since day one.
Yeah. It used to just be with all the live action stuff, but now they're starting to do all the animated features too.
Yeah, and of course, now you think about it, it's like all their fairy tale stuff. It's like even those are technically remakes of old stories.
Oh, definitely. I think I posed this question to somebody, but not to get too off topic. I've posed this question to somebody before, but I was like, tell me a Disney film that is not Pixar related that is based on an original idea. And they can't, because literally it goes so deep. The Black Cauldron is based on a series of fantasy books. Lilo and Stitch was based on a children's book. Like
Atlantis?
I'm not sure. That may or may not. I would have to look it up. But for the most part, yeah, all their stuff.
I was also about to say Treasure Planet, but I was like, no, that's based off Treasure Island.
The Brave Little Toaster was direct to video, and that was based on a book.
Fucking hell.
That's all Disney ever does.
Fox and the Hound, maybe?
Possibly. That could be like some European fairy tale or something.
That and like Bambi. Which, like, Bambi's so, like, there's so little actual plot to that one going on that, like, that one might be original.
I get, like, Dumbo was a kid's book. I think the best example I could think of is The Emperor's New Groove, because the title is based off of a fairy tale.
Yeah, it's The Emperor's New Clothes.
Or a fable. Yeah, but the story isn't. The story's, like, completely original, so that might I think that one does pass. But
Which,
anyways,
but even like just to wrap it up, even that one, like, you know, typically haughty character gets brought down a level by being either transformed or into an animal or in otherwise subservient position. Like fucking like The Journey to the West did that, and that's like an ancient Chinese novel.
well, right. If you wanna like melt it down to its most basic form, Disney is completely unoriginal in every way.
Absolutely.
And I guess the best way to put that, to finally wholly wrap it up, I guess their experimental area in the early 2000s was not based on fairy tale stuff, and I think that's why a lot of them didn't do so well.
Yeah, the ones
Atlantis, Home on the Range, like,
yeah.
what are you doing?
I'm still not convinced that Lion King was actually based on Hamlet. Like, I know there's similarities, but I really don't think that was genuinely what they did.
It's Hamlet and Kimba. It's both.
Oh yeah, Kimba. Fuck. Yeah, it's completely unoriginal then. Yeah, but probably back to where we were. I guess that kind of does end up showing our hand with whenever we get onto tangents like that, where it's like, what else? There's not a whole lot else we can say about either of these films. They are in and of themselves very basic, and then on top of that, almost identical as far as plots go. And
True.
and also scripts and everything, like you said.
Yeah, truly the only other thing that I even have written down was the child actors, which
Yeah.
I just want to say Amaryllis, the little girl that Marion is teaching piano near the beginning of the movie, it's a child actor, so I don't want to give him too much shit, but in both cases, that is just horrible. It's a horrible role. Yeah. She like has to fake cry because Winthrop, a star that she says goodnight to, doesn't say goodnight back, which is ridiculous. I know it's supposed to be symbolic, but I can't think of any child that would ever have that thought.
It was Iowa in the 20s or some shit. Like I'm willing to just be like, all right, fine. That she's just kind of dumb.
All right, that's fair. However, she's like, I don't want to end up an old maid like you, and then slaps her hand. It's like such bad child, and you get a lot of that in the 50s and 60s, and even earlier. I get that, but
we've gotten good child actors before. I mean, just last episode with Billy and Day the Earth Stood Still, he was great.
No, you can, but a lot of them are horrible.
Yeah, I think Disney just doesn't really give a shit. Well, no, the original Music Man probably wasn't Disney, but
no, it's Warner Brothers. Yeah,
but just a lot of those guys just didn't really give a shit, and I think that was before a lot of actor laws for kids were around, or either that or there were a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the first really good child actors that existed was Haley Joel Osment in like The Sixth Sense. If you hear the people that made that movie, the casting directors for that film, if you hear them talk about him walking in, it's like, we have all these kids that are saying these lines, and then a dad comes in with his son, who was Haley Joel Osment, and he has no emotion on his face, and he's wearing a suit and a tie like a little businessman, and it's kind of creepy, and it doesn't sound like good. Not that I want to throw judgment at his parents, but it doesn't sound like good parenting.
Yeah. No. Which, like, that's kind of the story of a lot of child actors.
True, but it sounds like it worked for the better, because I think he's a pretty good actor.
Oh yeah, it was stellar. Even in AI, people give that movie shit. I actually kind of like it.
Secondhand Lions, maybe. But no, Ron Howard. I actually like Cameron Monaghan as Winthrop in the remake a lot more than I like Ron Howard. He doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, and I also like that actor. He's been in a couple other random things. He was in that Gotham show, I'm pretty sure, which like I didn't like, but I thought he was one of the only good parts about it.
Oh, as who?
He plays this kid called Jerome, and also his twin brother Jeremiah, and he is the Joker. He's meant to be the Joker, but like they never explicitly say it. Like they have this whole big thing where he's this crazy guy who smiles and laughs and everything, but like they don't technically hold the rights to Joker. But like right in the very last episode, he's fallen into a vat of acid. His face is all fucked up. He's got a purple suit and everything. Like it has this whole drawn out thing where like this whatever. It would take a while to explain. It's just like it's a ridiculous show, and I don't really like it. But he was probably the only standout thing for it, despite how little he was actually in the fucking show.
Okay, so like young adult then, because I was curious when you said kid, because I was like, he was like 10 in 2003, like.
Oh yeah, no, he was. This would have been recently, so.
Right.
So I think he's like 20 now or something.
Okay.
Maybe a little older. I don't know.
I guess he would have to be a little older, because if he was 20 now, that means he'd have been 3.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Man.
Yeah. Who knows? But yeah,
who knows?
I definitely I liked him, and it was cool seeing him like younger in this. I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Although I didn't think about this. Sorry, I hadn't. I hadn't considered this, but it's kind of cool that we're doing a movie with Ron Howard in it, who was Opie on the Andy Griffith Show.
Oh yeah.
And the last episode we did had Frances Bavier, who was Aunt Bee, on the Andy Griffith Show.
Oh,
she was in the original Day the Earth Stood Still.
That's the closest thing to a full circle we've gotten this whole time.
I'm desperately scrounging. I was like, this can't be. We're on like episode 30 or something. We can't have an empty full circle.
Yeah, like how do we find that sweet spot? Which, like, I guess it is a pretty unique cast all around. We get right down to it.
Yeah, it just so happens that the big names like Buddy Hackett and Molly Shannon, we haven't encountered them up until this point.
Yeah, which is impressive given how basically incestuous Hollywood is.
Oh yes, we've discovered that quite frequently on this show.
God, it's like the Habsburg family tree, or should I say family wreath?
That's a good one. I'm going to steal that.
Please do. I'm sure I stole it from somewhere else.
I steal all of my things from everywhere else.
Everything is stolen. Nothing is original. If we wanted any good content, we wouldn't be here.
If everything was original, this show wouldn't exist.
Exactly. So, it's whatever. Yep.
But that being said, do you have any final thoughts on our 2 films today?
I mean, not really. I mean, it's pretty clear how much I've shown my hand. It's like 2003, good effort. I liked, it's definitely showing how the movie industry was kind of coming into its own in the more modern, in the more contemporary era, and as just the distinct shift of style from making plays on a movie screen to making distinctly movies that could only be done as movies. But with that comes the many growing pains of weird filters and Matthew Broderick, which is so often a staple in so many of those earlier films. But yeah, it's the 62 one. It's just, with Preston as, Professor Hill, and just all the set pieces and the grandeur of everything. It was just fun to watch. Like, there are obviously parts where it drags, but that kind of comes with the territory of a lot of those older movies. Like, back when movies could just be 2.5 hours long without it being like a fucking Avengers bullshit thing. And it's just like, and that's 2.5 hours without any credits, essentially. So it's like, oh man, this is gonna be the whole thing.
Oh yeah, no. If I watch the original again, which I always could. There's definitely parts where I'm like, no, we're skipping this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I had to do that when watching this, but that's just me, because I just have a bad attention span sometimes.
Right. The pick a little cheap song. I'm not doing that. I'm skipping that whole thing.
I thought that one was at least like kind of funny and at least different, but like, yeah, I would skip it too.
I think it's relatively funny, but it grates on my ears. It's not one that I listen to in the soundtrack.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm practically in the same place as you. I said it at the top of the episode. I've known about The Music Man for a while, and I've listened to the soundtrack. It's not really a musical that I enjoy, but I like the story of it. So I think it's much more digestible in a movie form.
Yeah.
So, I mean, with that being said, I do prefer the 62 one. What do you know? Another episode where we end up agreeing.
Yeah, it's that, and it's also, we've had a streak of the originals. Well, actually, no. I say that we both liked the more modern Nutty Professor more.
Oh yeah, definitely. That was like a, which I really was not expecting. That was a wild card.
Oh yeah,
But,
absolutely.
But yeah, I prefer the 62 one. Robert Preston's great. I always have loved Buddy Hackett in anything I've seen him in, which honestly isn't too much. I can't think of too many actual films he's been in. He mostly just did stand-up.
Which, like, hey, I mean, freaking funny guy, so...
Yeah, great guy, funny guy. And that's all I have.
Yeah, it's like...
So...
Something tells me next week we might be enjoying the remake version just a little bit more, but this one actually might be a bit of contention now that I think about it. But you'll just have to listen and find out, listeners.
Ooh, I'm excited because I've forgotten.
It's a Halloween.
Which one I like
it'll
more.
It'll be our first Halloween episode.
Ooh, and with that, you made me remember instantly. Okay.
Oh yeah, we're both. I have a feeling we're both excited for this one.
I definitely am. I haven't seen either of them in a very long time.
Oh, so I don't think I've even seen the original.
Oh boy, I definitely have. Anyways, we need to stop talking about it or we'll reveal it.
It's like, I want to tease it so bad, but no.
Maybe in the future we'll find a way to do that.
Yeah.
We'll work it into the show somehow.
We could just drop an obscure line.
Yeah, we can do that. We just have to work it in so it doesn't feel like stilted or anything.
I mean, I could do it now.
Here's the obscure line of the week. Nah, we got to talk about it.
Okay, fine.
We got to plan it.
Dang it.
Say the obscure line to me after the show.
Okay, sure.
When it's lost on purpose.
Sure.
Okay, so go ahead and follow us on any of your podcasting platforms. We are on plenty of them. iTunes, Google Play, Spreaker, Podbay, Podomatic, iHeartRadio, all the good ones. Leave us a review if you liked. If you didn't like, go ahead and send that. Give us stars. Stars are good.
Yes, we love stars. We talk about stars all the time on this show.
We talk about the hottest stars today.
Like Buddy Hackett.
50 years ago today. Yeah, Buddy Hackett. All the liveliest stars out there.
Matthew Broderick.
Oh, what's he doing?
I have no earthly idea.
Send us an email with any suggestions you might have. They remade it at gmail.com. And we're at It Remade on Twitter and at They Remade It on Instagram. And that's all the socials.
Yeah. We hope you've enjoyed your evening with us, or afternoon, or morning, or 2 a.m. What are you doing there? Go to sleep, man. What's wrong with
your commute?
Your commute
to work. That's when I listen to most of my podcasts, is on the commute.
The background of your action chase sequence, which, like, kind of a weird thing to have in the background, but, it's your deal. Yeah,
I listen to Gilbert Gottfried try to sell me Blue Chew while I'm speeding down the highway.
Well, here's us hoping you get away with it, buddy. We hope you aren't an asshole.
Yes.
Good luck to you. But, yeah, I'd say, as always, I'm your lovable host, Stuart. I was going to try to do a bit, but I couldn't come up with one.
Oh, that's too bad. You didn't get the chance to screw me over this week. I'm your lovable host, Jacob.
And thank you for listening. I'll find a way to screw him over next time.
Bye.
Look, what do you talk? 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 What do you get it? What do you talk?